Okay, so we all know that at one point or another, sometimes we stereotype. Okay, so let me tell you the story about the guy that was gonna be my hero and save me from the hood. My date with Mr. Random Coincidence. Okay, so one of my customers hooked me up with a couple of tickets to go to the Long Beach, the Aquarium of the Pacific, right? Um, I decided to take, it was Mother's Day and it was a busy weekend, and I thought I'm just gonna spend some time with my son and I'm gonna go to the aquarium, you know. He had never been to the aquarium before then. So I thought it was gonna be a perfect Mother's Day for him and for me. So I went, we were having fun, whatever. It got late. I mean, I took some snacks, but and he was like around 3 years old. So, you run through those snacks like crazy. So we get out and it's already like around 5 in the evening. And my son is dying. He's so hungry. And every freaking restaurant, well, at first I thought, I'll just go to one of the restaurants around there. Oh my gosh, it was like an hour wait for all of them. So I'm like, okay. And don't ask me what happened, but my phone wasn't getting reception. So I wasn't able to see what restaurants were around there. And I mean, I guess I could have walked around, but I just didn't want to walk randomly. So anyways, I thought I'll be smart and I'll look for somebody that looks like a local and I'll ask. Maybe they'll guide me and tell me which way to go. I mean, that was the next best thing, right? So I approached this guy that looked like he was in a bicycle. And I said, he must be local, and he was getting off a elevator there. I don't know. But so I went up to him. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. But I just wanted to know if I could ask you if there's a restaurant around this area or a fast food restaurant, because my son is really hungry and I don't want to wait in the restaurants here. And he's like, oh yeah, I was going to tell you the restaurants here, they're going to be super booked, I guess, because of Mother's Day. And I say, yes. And he's like, oh yeah, well, if you go up the street, for sure you're going to find one. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And I was on my way, like, right there. And then, don't ask me how I always get into these kind of situations, but this guy goes, hey, so who are you with? And I'm like, oh, with my son. And he's like, no, I mean, are you here with your husband? And I said, oh, no, I'm not married. But I didn't say I didn't have a boyfriend. I just said, I'm not married. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he's like, oh, well, I was on my way to having lunch too. And I said, oh, okay. And he goes, would you mind if I invited you? And I said, what? No, I mean, you don't know me. No, not at all. I'm like, hey, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but no. I'm like, he's okay. I should say he was an older gentleman, like mid-50s, and at that time I was like 38ish, something like that, because my son was 3. Yeah, I was like something like that. So, anyways, this dude, he's like, let me just invite you. I'm like, no, you don't have to. No, thank you. For reals, like I'm good. And he's like, oh, come on, it's Mother's Day. And I said, yes, thank you. So well, let me treat you. And I'm like, you don't even know me. And he's like, no, but just, take it as just say yes, I don't mean you no harm. And then I was like, okay, well, okay, whatever. He's like, I didn't even want to have dinner by myself anyways. And he's like, and I said, okay, well, he's like, you could keep me company. So, I mean, I said, okay, whatever. So there we go. We went 2 islands. I don't know you guys or ladies, but, there's sometimes when people ask you certain questions that they just have a different connotation to the word. And for some reason, this dude was like, when we got to to Islands, he goes, oh yeah, there's this restaurant and they have really good food. And he's like, have you been here before? And I was like, Island? And I said, yeah. I mean, who hasn't? And as if he didn't believe me, he's like, oh, really? What do you like? And I said, oh, they have like really good hamburgers. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. So we go in there and we order our food. I actually ended up ordering a salad. Oh, mind you, when we sat down, they gave us the menu, and then he goes, oh, choose whatever you want on the menu. Don't even look at the price. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't going to, but whatever. So we ordered all this food, whatever, and I think he orders a hamburger. I can't remember. And I didn't order anything for my son. Like, I was gonna give him from my food because he doesn't eat that much. But he's like, oh no, get him some fries or something. I can't remember what I ordered my son, but I did order him something small. So whatever. So the whole time we're talking, I'm talking to him, my baby, in Spanish, and I was telling him stuff, and then he's like, oh, you speak Spanish? I'm like, yes, I'm Mexican. And he's like, oh, he goes, oh, I speak Spanish too, but I never speak Spanish here because we're in America. And I was like, oh, he goes, but when I go to TJ, then I really, really speak Spanish. I'm like, oh, well, good for you. I was like I'm trying to teach him Spanish. And he's like, oh yeah, well, that's good. He said, but yeah, we're in America. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, oh God, So we finished dinner, and he asked to get the receipt, right? And when it comes, he's like, oh, would you mind looking and making sure that they charge us what we're supposed to? Just make sure that they got everything. And I said, okay. And then I look and I said, do you want me to sign it too? Of course, I'm being sarcastic. He didn't pick it up. But he goes, oh, no, I'll sign it. And I'm like, okay, you wanted me to see how much you paid. Whatever. But I'm like, whatever. I'm not even going to go there. But we didn't, oh, he did ask me if I wanted any dessert. I'm like, no, I'm good, so he pays and we get out of there. So when we're walking out, there's a Cold Stone right there, and then he's asked me, hey, so are you sure you don't want some dessert to go? Some dessert. I'm like, no, I'm good. He goes, there's Cold Stone, there's ice cream. Of course, my 3-year-old, he's like, ice cream. And I'm like, oh God, and then he is, oh, look, your son wants some. And I said, yeah, I'm okay. And I said, ice cream, mommy, ice cream. I'm like, oh my God. Then he's like, okay, you want to go to Cold Stone? And I'm like, okay, okay, thank you. And he goes with the same crazy question. Have you been here before? I'm serious. I just looked at him like, why does he keep asking me, have you been here before? So, whatever. I said, yes, I've been here. And he's like, oh, really? As if he didn't believe me. He tested me. He's like, what do you like from here? I said, well, they have a really good coffee ice cream that I like. And he's like, oh, okay. And I said, have you been here before? Well, he said he hadn't been that many times. But when we went in there, I ordered my ice cream. Then I ordered my son's ice cream. And he orders his ice cream with little sprinkles and nuts and little other things on it. And I'm like, huh. And you haven't been here before, huh? I said, whatever. So anyways, we get out of there, and there's actually a huge Ferris wheel that I had never in my whole life seen. Not sure why, because I had been to Long Beach and just never paid attention. But that's probably because I'm afraid of heights. So who knows? But anyways, we get there, and he's like, hey, have you been on the Ferris wheel? I'm like, oh, no, never. And he's like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. Let's go. And I'm like, no. He goes, you cannot say you came to Long Beach unless you went and rode that, you ride the Ferris wheel. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, well, whatever. But he's very persistent. And trust me, after going to the aquarium, then going to dinner, then going for ice cream, I was so ready to go home. I'm like tired. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Let's go. We end up going on the Ferris wheel. My son loves it. I mean, by just so you guys know, I guess you could go in it with the strollers and all that. It's for families, so it's pretty wide, pretty big, and it was a beautiful view. I really enjoyed it, but whatever. We're just on it. Okay. We get off the Ferris wheel, and then I'm like ready to go. And so every single time I was like, well, thank you. I had a great time. I really have to go. I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay. All of a sudden, a train rides by. One of those little trains that, I guess the adults and the children go on it. And I guess it takes you like a little tour around the place. And it takes you in a pretty big circle, no? So my son, he's 3 years old, infatuated with freaking trains, goes, train, train. I'm like, oh no. And then the guy's like, oh, look at him. He wants to go on the train. I'm like, yeah, but it's okay. Like, we really have to go. And then my son is like, mommy, train. I was like, oh my God. So the guy was like, just go on the train. Come on. And I said, no, it's okay. I'll pay for it. Come on. I'm like, no. And I said, okay, fine. So I go on the train with my kid. We're sitting down. And right before we take off, the guy goes, okay. Because, okay, mind you, all these people were looking at us because here's an older gentleman, and I look pretty young, and I guess they were thinking if that's his kid. I don't know what they were thinking, but they look at us like we were a couple, but we weren't, It was like, so when I sat down with my son, he tried to go like this and lean over and tried to kiss me, and I was like, no. I was like, oh, what's going on? But I guess he tried to do it because people were around there. So don't ever feel pressured about doing something just because other people are staring. I mean, I was like, no. I mean, sorry, just like, whatever. So I go on the freaking train, and I'm like thinking, oh, as soon as I get off of this, I'm gone. Like, I'm taking off. So whatever. I get off the train, and of course my son loved it. But we get off the train, I hurried up, put my son in the stroller, and I'm like ready to go, and then he's like, okay. So I said, okay, well, thank you. I had an amazing time. I apologize for taking so much of your time. I mean, it was not intentional. I mean, if I think about it, he was the one that kept inviting me to do things. I didn't want to do them. So whatever. I mean, so then I said, well, I feel so bad that you spent so much money on us. Let me make it up to you. I'm a hairdresser. So I said, I could cut your hair. One day I could come in. I know a haircut for all that is not worth it, but hey, I didn't ask for it. And the dreaded moment came up when he asked me for my number. And I said, you know what? Yes, let me give you my number. And I said, but I'm going to tell you, if you call this number, just make sure you're calling a friend. And he looked at me like all puzzled, like, what? I said, yeah, well, if you call me, make sure you're calling a friend. And he's like, but, I thought we were getting along well. And I said, and I said, what do you mean? Like, he's like, yeah, like, this, to me, this is like a date. And I said, or what is it to you? I'm like, no, it's not a date. And he's like, well, it is because we went to dinner. And I was like, no. I said, to me, this is a random coincidence. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, because randomly I asked you for directions and coincidentally you were hungry too. And he just looked at me like, but anyways, I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't feel the same attraction as you feel for me. And I don't want to lead you on. You know, I mean, I did feel kind of bad. But then again, I didn't tell him, take me to do this, take me to do that. And I kept saying, no, no, no. He was the one that's being insistent. You know, so it was kind of like, what are you going to do? The best thing you could do in those situations, be sincere, be honest. Because, you know, sometimes you're embarrassed to say, oh, you know, oh, okay. And then you give him your number. And then the poor person keeps calling and thinking that you like them. And I'm like, no, you know, it wasn't like that. So, whatever. I never asked for any of that. And he was the one that willingly gave him to me. Like, I never asked for it. And I don't take advantage of people like that, okay? So it's not like I was doing it on purpose. So that's why I don't feel guilty, because it was never my intention, you know? And I don't know when women do that or guys do that to other women. I have no idea how they could do that and not feel guilty, because I was feeling guilty even though I didn't ask for any of that, you know? It's like, it's not my thing, you know? Like, I'm not used to people giving me stuff without any strings. There's always there's always a plan. And that's why I try and get my own things, you know, because I don't want to deal with that. So I gave him my number and I went on my way, you know. Like, not even 10 minutes later, he calls me. And I was like, yes. You know, I'm thinking, you know, he probably forgot something. I don't know. He goes, I just wanted to ask you, was I not a gentleman to you? Did I not treat you respectfully? And I said, oh, you were a perfect gentleman. And I more than appreciate your consideration and your thoughtfulness. I really enjoyed myself. And I'm sure my son enjoyed himself too. And he's like, okay, I just wanted to ask you because I just wanted to show you what it is, how life is from all those cholos you've been with. And I was like, what? And I was like, cholos? Then it dawned on me. The questions, you know, have you been here before? As if I've never been there. Like, when he said, I just wanted to show you the difference between that life and all those cholos you've been with. And I'm like, oh my God, all this time you thought I was a chola? Okay, let me show you the outfit I was wearing. Okay, do you notice the seashell too? Like, yes, I was in shock. Like, I was like, what? Oh my God. You know, I was like, I mean, nothing against cholos, and I mean, all the people, to each his own, that's their lifestyle. I'm not like that. I mean, I had my hair all flowy, and I was wearing this white long skirt. Like, it was a peasant type of outfit, you know, with seashells. I mean, I don't have any tattoos. I was like, oh my God, I don't have any tattoos. Did you think I was a chola? And he's like, I said, look, I don't wear any tattoos. I spoke eloquently to you the whole time we were speaking. I was in shock. Like, I'm like, oh my God. And I said, no, dude, if you and I would drive by there, people would freaking shoot at us, you know, because we look so nerdy. Like, no, I mean, I told him, I don't even Sharpie my eyebrows. Look, I wear my eyebrows. And I'm like, I've never been confused by a chola. You know, I mean, with all due respect, but for reals, I've never been confused by a chola. And I'm like, really? I mean, I have an accent on my Spanish. I'm like, really? I was like, oh my God. Dije, oh goodness. Dije, well, I don't know what to tell you. Dije, but I'm not a chola. Dije, and you know, if I would ever, I wish I could show you where the hood it really is. Dije, but I'm afraid to even drive by there. So, no, I was like, sorry. I was like, no wonder. It totally makes sense. All those questions. Have you been here before? As if he's saving me from the hood. Wow. It's like mind blowing. How do I get into these situations? Trust me, I don't even know how. Obviously, that didn't go further than that. Not only because I was not interested in him that way, but because, you know, he was really lost. How could he have thought that I was, I don't know, like, he really truly stereotyped me. And I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. But all I could say is, yeah, it's a really awkward moment when you think, when you know, when somebody thinks that you're somebody else that you're not. So the moral of the story is, don't ever accept no dinners from somebody you just randomly go and ask a question. And don't stereotype people, because we really don't know, you know, just because we look at them a certain way, we can't say that that's how they are, or that's who they are. It could have turned really, really bad if I took it such an insult. I didn't take it like an insult. I mean, I just assume he's pretty ignorant, you know, for him to be stereotyping like that, you know. I mean, I would understand it if I had like crazy tattoos and I had like, I don't know, like, you know, stereotyping, you know. But if I had crazy tattoos that really claimed something, then I could understand you thinking I'm in a gang or something. But just because I'm Mexican and I have a mean old accent, you know, doesn't mean that I am from that area, you know. So, I mean, with all due respect, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, we shouldn't stereotype. Don't forget to push like and follow for more if you want to know more of my little adventures on my dating life. And like I always say, oh well, next